Good morning. It's nice to see you all this morning. I'm Elizabeth Gunn, Chair of the NSHE Task Force on Power-Based Violence. Pleased to call the meeting to order at 9:05. We'll begin with the committee roll call. If you hear your name, you can say present. Mr. Adrian Barrera.
Present.
Miss Melissa Barnard.
Present.
Dr. Kavita Batra. Miss Luisa Bautista.
Present.
Dr. Sarah Chamanara.
Present.
Miss Erin Frock.
Present.
Dr. Tabor Griswold.
Present.
Elizabeth Gunn present. Miss Christine Hall.
Present.
Miss Isabel Hatch.
Present.
Mr. Matt McNair.
Renee Davis, proxy for Matt McNair.
Mr. Jose Melendrez. I believe Mr. Melendrez is traveling today. Mr. Ricky Salazar.
Present.
Miss Michelle Sposito.
Present.
Thank you all. We have a quorum, so good to be able to share that. And we'll move forward to agenda item number 1, which is public comment. Public comment will be taken during this agenda item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item until the matter is included on an agenda item on which action may be taken. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Persons making comments will be asked to begin by stating their names for the record and to spell their last names. The task force chair may elect to allow additional public comment on a specific item when that agenda item is being considered. In accordance with Attorney General File 00047, as restated in the Attorney General's Open Meeting Law Manual, the task force chair may prohibit comment if the content of that comment is of a topic that is not relevant to or within the authority of the Board of Regents, or if the content is willfully disruptive of the meeting by being irrelevant, repetitious, slanderous, offensive, inflammatory, irrational, or amounting to personal attacks, or interfering with the rights of other speakers. I learned we have no written comments, so I do not see any public comment in person in Las Vegas. Is there any in-person public comment in Reno?
There is no public comment in Reno.
Thank you. Are there any callers on the line?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 2, which is the chair's report. I'd like to start out by thanking, as always, the NSHE staff and the respective system offices. Thank you for making these meetings possible. We appreciate it. Also wanted to extend my continued appreciation for the collegial collaboration with UNLV Center for Research, Evaluation, and Assessment. Dr. Mariano is here today for one of our agenda items. We continue to communicate between meetings on the progress and some nuances of preparing the agenda item for our next survey, so thank you for your continued collaboration. Also wanted to thank the Vice Chancellor Renee Davis for her consistent presence and collaboration on all of the items, specifically during the last, between the last meeting and this meeting, a couple of significant items. Leading the communication with student affairs officers, and Title IX coordinators at the respective institutions to ensure that communication is forthcoming for our agenda item regarding the institutional services matrix. So I appreciate your attention and leadership there. Thank you as well for coordinating and leading the presentation to the Legislature's Joint Interim Standing Committee. That presentation was on the 24th, and the Vice Chancellor was in person to present to the legislature and led that presentation, and I joined virtually. And we presented updates to the committee, some recommendations, and they provided some ideas for moving forward. So it was a successful presentation that's part of the required reporting for the task force. So thank you for your leadership and collaboration and stewardship of our work with the legislature. I appreciate it. Also wanted to take a moment to recognize and welcome 2 new members to the task force. After I call your name, I invite you to unmute and you can reintroduce yourself. Tell us a little bit in a few minutes about your background, your professional background, and how it aligns with the work of the task force. So I'll start with Mr. Adrian Barrera.
Hello, good morning. It's a pleasure to meet everyone on this call. I work at Western Nevada College. My official title is Access Program Coordinator. I work in student services. My day-to-day jobs, I work with students on a daily basis as an academic advisor. I work with different groups with WNC's primarily enrollment is 42% of due enrollment is with Jumpstart. And I work with a lot of high school students and also different demographics of our nursing programs and some veterans as well. So I hope to bring some perspective, a day-to-day of what's going on with our students in our local area. Looking forward to meeting everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera. We're glad to have you on board with the task force. And turning it to Mr. Ricky Salazar.
Great. Awesome. Good morning, everyone, and nice to meet everyone. My name is Ricky Salazar. I work here at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I serve as a director for the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life. In my purview includes oversight of 28 recognized fraternities and sororities, or all social fraternities and sororities. So I see a lot of issues, concerns, things of that nature. When folks come into our office to disclose certain things, and so we naturally must be, well equipped to handle some of these situations and refer students out to the appropriate offices. And so I think that perspective is super valued. And again, thank you so much for having me a part of this committee. I think the work of the committee is really right up my professional alley, but also personally, we want to keep our students safe. And I'd like to take a quick moment to do a quick shout out to Erin Frog, how are you? And then Melissa Barnard.
Thank you, Mr. Salazar. Glad to have you and the expertise you bring as a member of the task force as well. On a relevant note, I met with both of our new members between the meetings to orient them toward the work of the task force, and appreciate their collegial spirit in jumping in and wanting to learn about the important work. So thank you all for joining. Finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Ryan Herrick, stepping in today, Deputy General Counsel for NSHE, for being with us. Appreciate that as well. We'll move on to agenda item 3, which is approval of the minutes. The minutes are linked in your agenda.
Tabor Griswold, for the record, I recommend approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Griswold. There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Christina Hall, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any? I think we've got some ayes online. I'll try that one more time just to make sure. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, great.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you all. We'll turn to agenda item 4, which is review of our survey questions for 2026. The agenda item reads, colleagues from UNLV's Center for Research, Evaluation, and Assessment, in collaboration with UNLV Academic Effectiveness Surveys and Data, will present a revised draft of the NSHE Power-Based Survey, which is targeted for administration in fall 2026. Included in the discussion will be an opportunity for the task force to provide inputs and edits. The task force may also vote to approve the survey with or without edits, after which the survey will be submitted to the Board of Regents at a future meeting for approval. Institution-specific links with appropriate branding and referral information are provided for review purposes, and those are all linked in your agenda. With that, once again, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mariano from CREA to lead this agenda item.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be back with you today. Dr. Bradley Mariano, Faculty Director of the Center for Research Evaluation and Assessment at UNLV. For the record, we are grateful for the feedback that we received at February's meeting and have incorporated it now into the current version of the survey. I first wanted to do a high-level overview of some of the changes we made, and then I'm happy to walk through the survey or open it up for further commentary. Some of the revisions that we made from last meeting, there was a recommendation that we clearly specify confidential and non-confidential resources for reporting and support. That has now been done, along with ensuring that we had the proper references for all of the center's support resources at each of the individual institutions. We have done that as well. And so in each of the individual survey links there, we should have the proper resources referred to. It was also encouraged that we have a trigger warning or a little call-out box in between each individual section of the survey to notify respondents of what will be next. And we have incorporated that into the survey. There were a couple of typos, one on page 12, one on page 21, that were rectified in this current version. It was also encouraged that when we talk about power-based violence, specifically relation to choking, that we have a follow-up question related to medical care. That was now incorporated in this version of the survey. It was also encouraged that we have in the demographic block of the survey a few items or an item that references how they heard about the survey. That is now in there. So we have made all of these requested changes, and I will defer to the committee how they prefer that we proceed at this point. I'm happy to walk through one of the versions, or if you've had a chance to review and have further feedback, I'm happy to answer any questions about the new version of the survey.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. Thank you, Dr. Mariano. Maybe to organize this agenda item, first, is there any general point of feedback on what Dr. Mariano just presented? And from there, we can look at maybe the survey at the top of the list for ease and convenience, which is UNLV. They'll all be formulaic except for in the relevant institutional information.
Luisa Bautista for the record. Thank you for taking our recommendations from the last meeting. I know we had a lot, so thank you for taking the time and putting our ideas to life. I really appreciated seeing the campus-specific resources that are consistently listed at the bottom of each page, as well as the summary of resources at the end. And you did mention the trigger warning added before each section, and I also really wanted to highlight how I appreciate the repeated report link before the start of each section. So I did complete the survey. It took me a little over 8 minutes, but those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. Thank you, Ms. Bautista. Thank you for taking the survey from that perspective. I appreciate it. Any other general comments or feedback?
Isabel Hatch for the record. I really appreciate all of the feedback that was taken into account in this point may be better discussed either at a later meeting or in a different agenda item. So please feel free to shoot me down after I say this. I am concerned with our rollout timeline. If we go for early fall, it's kind of relevant, especially in college power-based violence research, that the first 3 months, if not just the first 6 weeks on a college campus, is often considered a red zone for victimization of power-based violence. And so I did want to keep that in mind so that a quarter of our data isn't skewed because students have yet to experience campus. They wouldn't know whether or not the campus is good at reacting to power-based violence, and may only just be like grappling with anything that they've experienced on our campuses. So I do put that out there, if we would want to wait until like the middle of the fall semester to push this survey out.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, we have no specific opinions on when to roll out in the fall semester, so we'll defer to the committee on that timeline.
Elizabeth Gunn, for the record. Thank you, Ms. Hutch, for that feedback. You bring up some excellent points, so we certainly want to consider. I think balancing that really important information and context is crucial with also the maximizing participation in the survey, and I am confident we can strike that balance. We want to administer the survey before the Thanksgiving break, which could also leave there could be a window there that that takes into account your important recommendation and ensuring we're maximizing the opportunity for results. Kind of historically, students are more likely to complete a survey before the break. We administered the previous survey in 2023 after Thanksgiving, and the return, we're looking for more participation, a better participation rate. So I think with both of those key pieces of information, we can still make this a success.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, let me just speak briefly to our research so far on how to roll this out. So we anticipate rolling it out via email to all active students, so direct email. We anticipate, and we've done some exploration, when students log into Canvas at each institution, they can put a little banner announcement at the top of the Canvas page, not embedded into the individual courses, but just a banner announcement. We've talked with UNLV's Office of Information Technology about how that's done, and believe it's reasonable that at each institution we could do that, where there's a banner announcement for when students log in, direct click on the link, and they have access to the survey. We also anticipate creating some flyer announcements and providing those around campus too, with a QR code that can be scanned. And so at least 3 different touch points where students can enter into the survey in an effort to try to increase participation.
Dr.
Dr.
Griswold.
Tabor Griswold, for the record. The first question, let's see, the Q3, where they're asking if you could take at least one, did you take at least one course on campus? It seems to me that would be a nice branch, because then you would be able to separate those who've been on campus or not for that first quarter. I understand the previous comment about experiences in the fall semester. I thought I would just highlight that's the reason why that question is in there. That can be a branch for new students unaware of the, not familiar with the environment versus those who are in other years. Thank you.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, thank you for that point. And it's a good reminder that this tool traditionally has been used to report on incidents in the last year. And so that question actually will, if they select no, send them towards the end of the survey, because we are primarily interested in responses for those that have been on campus in the last year.
Okay, Elizabeth Gunn, for the record. Great comments to help frame our discussion. Why don't, like for us to be thorough, we have a lot of expertise in the room. With that in mind, this is also for possible action today, making a recommendation to we would vote to recommend or not. We'd vote to make a recommendation to the Board of Regents whether or not they want to consider this survey. So with that in mind, let's go through, I want the task force to be thorough, so let's please go through the survey block by block and just ask if there's any general comments, minor edits to make sure the survey is as complete and thorough as possible before we take this recommendation, if we take it to the regents. I'll invite Dr. Mariano to lead us through that once again. That was an effective way to frame this in the last meeting. And so I think the best way to do this would be to, in your agenda, if you look we're in agenda item 4. If you look at the reference material, before I said let's look at the link survey, but we would have to actually fill those out. Let's look at the reference material, the first one. If you click the one, I believe it's labeled 4A. That will open the kind of a PDF version of the survey. And from there, we can move through that together block by block. And so I'll turn it back over to Dr. Mariano.
Thank you. Dr. Mariano for the record. So when students first access the survey, they will be given an information page, which is more visible on the Qualtrics version than on that PDF reference, but it provides detailed purpose of the survey, a definition of power-based violence, and along with some other definitions there of sexual misconduct, sexual assault. It provides links to that university's office, in the case of UNLV, to Title IX, to their Student Wellness Center. It makes reference that this is not a reporting tool, that they can decline to answer any question, standard language there, and then who to reach out to if they have questions or need technical assistance, along with a content warning. And so then there's a consent box. I consent to take the survey. I do not consent. Obviously, if they do not consent, it will kick them to the end of the survey. Then once they enter, we do have another screener question that asks for their age. If a student selects 18 or older, it will allow them to proceed on the survey. If they type in an integer that is below 18, it will send them to the end of the survey. Subsequently, it will then ask them that question that was already referenced about whether they took at least one course on campus in the past year. If selected yes, they will proceed into the survey. If selected no, it will send them to the end of the survey. We then move into the trust of leaders block. So we will ask about questions about perceptions of campus leaders at their specific institution. There is a series of 9 questions there about trust. And then they move into a subsequent block, Q6, that will ask about perceptions of specific behaviors of campus leaders. And there are 5 questions in that block. On Q7, this was addition for this round. We discussed this last time, but for this version of the survey, Q7 asks about awareness of resources on campus. And so if you are familiar with, I'm obviously very familiar with UNLV, but if you are familiar with some of the other campuses, you might click on those individual Qualtrics links and just make sure, double check that we've got the right in centers and services, though it was helpful that we had that mapping last meeting. After that, you are going to move into the power-based violence block. And so Q8, you get a content warning and a definition again of power-based violence and what we'll be discussing in the next block. Q9 is about what happens if you were to report instance of power-based violence at your institution, perceptions about whether the institution would take it seriously, whether they would keep it confidential, whether you believe they'll take steps to protect the safety of the person, whether they'll take corrective action. So there's a series of 9 questions there about perceptions on steps related to a power-based violence report. Question 10 then moves into a block as to, again, what would happen if a student, staff member, or faculty member was formally accused of power-based violence, whether there would be an investigation, whether there'd be corrective action, whether there'd be the achievement or career of the accused, what would happen to the accuser if an action was taken, and whether you believe the investigation would be fair. Then There's question 11, just general perceptions about whether power-based violence is a problem at the institution, whether there's something that you can do about it, and whether there's something you think, or whether there isn't much need to think about it. Now, again, you'll notice some overlap in these questions. Best practice on these surveys is to ask the question a few times, just to ensure that folks are actually reading each question and thoughtfully responding. All right, so then you move into question 12 about whether if you witnessed power-based violence, you would feel comfortable intervening, and then whether you would like more formal training regarding power-based violence at the institution. Once you move through that, you're going to move into the specific sexual misconduct block, Q15, which again has a general opening about sexual misconduct, along with a definition of misconduct and sexual assault. Then you move into, very importantly, question 16. Since you have been a student at the institution, have you had a fellow student tell you that they were the victim of an unwanted sexual experience? And then not only did someone tell you, but also did you observe a situation? If those questions are answered yes, you will then be logicked to the next question, question 18. You indicated that you observed or may have observed a situation. How did you respond to that situation? And there's a series of potential responses where they can select all that apply in terms of the action that they individually took based on the situation they observed. Moving on to question 19, this block asked about power-based violent consent and intoxicants. And so this is where we start to ask very specific questions around sexual activity, consent, and use of intoxicants. On question 20, we ask which apply to them and how often. So you're going to see a series of questions about you have discussed sexual consent with current or most recent partner at times other than during sexual encounters. You have heard sexual consent issues being discussed on campus by students, whether you ask for verbal consent or other potential mechanisms for consent on 4 and 5. And then we asked in question 21, specifically, have you had consensual sex with someone in the past 12 months, yes or no? If they respond yes to this question, they are then logicked to question 22. During the most recent time you had consensual sex within the past 12 months, did you? And then it asked about potential intoxicants during that moment. So, and then we move to the end of that block. The student would then be sent to question 23 with a screener content warning. And this asks about specific incidents of power-based violence that may have been committed against them. So recall previously we asked, did they observe it? Now this is specifically about them, with an opportunity to file a confidential report if they need to do so. Question 24 asks specifically about actions taken about them by phone, text message, email, social media, or in person, about sexual advances, gestures, or comments, or jokes that were unwelcome, intimidation or force, pictures or sent pictures that were unwelcome, rumors, unwanted photos or videos, whether those were posted, whether someone committed intimate partner violence, someone continued unwanted contacts via text, calls, social media, or email, someone used location technology, someone stalked in person or virtually, or someone used friendship or manipulation for trafficking purposes. Now, if they select that this occurred, they are then sent to a follow-up block. And so this is where we ask them if they've experienced at least one form in the past 12 months, or if they've experienced more than one, we're going to ask them to respond to the one that impacted them the most. We're going to ask them where it occurred, when it occurred, what best describes the relationship with the other person involved, and did they tell anyone? If they respond that they did tell someone, they're gonna get a question whether they, I'm just trying to follow the skip logic and making sure there's not an error here. Oh, okay, so if they did report the incident, then we're gonna ask them, did it affect their schoolwork? Did it make you consider leaving the school or transferring to another institution? And did this incident of power-based violence involve use of intoxicants? They then receive question 33. If they're in no way responsible for the incident of power-based violence, even if they have been drinking alcohol or drug, please answer the following questions about this incident of power-based violence. Whether they had been drinking prior, whether they had voluntarily been taking drugs other than alcohol, or whether they had been given a drug without their consent. And then we're going to ask them whether they sought medical care as a result of this incident. Then finally, an open response question where they can respond, hey, what's the best way that this institution can help students like you? We then move into the intimate partner violence victimization block. They're going to receive a content warning. We're going to ask them whether they've had a romantic or intimate partner in the past 12 months. If they say no, they're going to go to the end of the block. If they say, or if they decline to answer. If they say yes, they're going to be moved into these next series of questions. Have you experienced the following behaviors at least once with your partner within the past 12 months? Whether they were insulted or cursed at, shouted at, stomped out of the room. My partner said something to spite me. My partner called me fat or ugly. My partner accused me of being a lousy lover. My partner destroyed something belonging to me. My partner threatened to hit or throw something at me. Have you experienced question 40, have you experienced any of the following behaviors at least once with your partner within the past 12 months? And so there's 3 questions there about sexual behavior, unwanted, and the use of physical force or verbal threats. And then have you experienced any of the following behaviors at least once with your partner within the past 12 months? And this physical violence, sprain, bruise, or small cut, physical pain, passed out from being hit, have gone to the doctor because of a fight, have needed to see a doctor because of a fight but didn't actually go, have had a broken bone. Question 42 asked further about scratching, pushing, slamming against a wall, physical, twisting of an arm, choking behavior, slapping, throwing, beating them up, assault, or assault with a weapon or another object. If they respond specifically to the choking question per the recommendation of the committee or the task force, we have added question 43, did they seek medical care? If they respond at all that they've experienced at least one form of intimate partner violence, they're then going to be screened to some additional questions. So if they responded above that they received intimate partner violence, but also responded on these specific questions about violence, we're going to ask a screener question as to whether this is the same incident that was reported in the prior block, just so that we don't double count incidents. If it's a new incident, then they're going to get the same questions about where did it occur, when did it occur, who was involved, Did you tell anyone? How did it affect your work? And then were alcohol or drugs involved? So those questions are similar to the block above, and whether or not they sought medical care. Then they move to question 56, which is about unwanted sexual content victimization, where in the past 12 months, has anyone or any of the following types of sexual contact with you that you did not want? And then there's a series of questions there. Again, this may have been reported in a prior block, so they're going to get a screener question, question 60, as to whether this was within the power-based violence block, the intimate power-based violence block, and if not, then they will receive questions about where did it occur, when did it occur, which best describes the relationship, did you tell anyone, did this incident of unwanted sexual contact affect your schoolwork? Same series of questions that we've asked in the prior two blocks. And then finally, they move to question 72 about race or ethnic origin, sex at birth, which of the following best represents how you think of yourself, whether or not they consider themselves transgender, their primary language, whether they're an international student, are they employed while at school, are they receiving formal financial support, and then finally how they heard about the survey. And that would conclude the survey at that point, where they will be sent a final list of resources and an opportunity to report if confidentially. Yes, I think we've got questions now.
Yes. Tabor Griswold for the menu. So while you were discussing all of this, I actually opened up the UNR version and I was double checking, UNR, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was going back and forth between the different questions that you were discussing. And then when I did that no or decline, it threw me completely out of it and there was no way to go back. And the thought that had occurred to me is, what if somebody changes their mind and they're looking at that demographic screen and there's no previous tab on it? I thought I would just bring that up for discussion to see if that jump we wanted to have.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, it is possible for us to, once they hit that screener question, to embed the back button on the demographic block, which would then allow them to return back to the previous point. So I have made a note of that so that there is an opportunity to return from the screener questions, should you hit it accidentally or maybe not understand the question or a variety of different reasons.
Yes, that's my point. I was just in case they were being curious about, well, what is this? And then all of a sudden they're out of it. Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't really want to decline the answer. Thank you.
Yes. I believe we have some hands raised.
I'll go first. So I am Christina Hall for the record. I'm looking specifically on the UNLV one because that's my institution. And I'm looking at the Qualtrics survey, that first informational page. And on there, it lists the Title IX office and a link to it, and the Student Wellness Center and a link to it. I was wondering if it's possible for those institutions that do have a confidential advocacy program on campus to link that on that page specifically, because you have to dig a little if you go to the student wellness page to find the care center. So for UNLV, it would be the Gene Nidich Care Center. And I can provide the direct link to our website if needed. And if possible, if that could be on the bottom of each page, along with CAPS and the Title IX office, that would be great. And then I see Michelle's hand, so I'll let you go because I feel like I know what you're going to say. Oh, you're muted, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle Esposito, for the record. Well, I was just going to note that on page 22, there might be something that needs to be revised. It says my partner stomped out of the room on house/apartment during an agreement. And I just wondered if that was correct. My partner stomped out of the room on house or apartment.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, it does not sound correct to me. So we will make that revision.
And this is Christina Hall again. On that first page where at the bottom where it says to file a report, it says file a confidential report. I wonder if that language might be a little confusing because the Title IX office is not a confidential resource, protects people's privacy. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle.
So it is confidential to us. But you're right. It's not confidential, meaning the same way that the care center would be confidential or seeking medical treatment would be confidential. I'd have to think about what the suggestion would be to revise that.
Yeah, Dr. Mariano, for the record, our understanding was that it was confidential, but we are not experts. So we are just simply trying to respond to the committee's feedback to delineate confidential versus non-confidential resources. So if we need to remove the confidentiality language on Title IX, we can do so. I just am concerned that that might create confusion or concern about students going to Title IX, but I'll defer to the task force.
This is Christina Hall for the record. At UNLV, the counseling center and the care center are confidential, meaning that if someone were to come to either of those places and disclose sexual violence, we would not need to make a report to Title IX because we're confidential victim advocates or counselors, therapists. However, Title IX is confidential to them, but it may lead to an investigation. So I think that's kind of the distinction, maybe.
Dr. Mariano, for the record.
Oh, sorry.
My question was simply, is that the case everywhere within NSHE?
It would be the case for all counseling centers. Any licensed therapist is confidential, yes. As far as I know, UNLV has a care center that's confidential, and as far as I know, UNR Cares is confidential because they go through victim advocacy training as well.
Okay, Tabor Griswold for the record, because of the surveys that we do, in that opening email to the recipient, and it could be on this page also, we usually put a sentence that says, the information collected in this survey will not be disseminated on an individual basis. It will always be accumulated as in a report, so that they understand that they're giving it on the individual basis, but it will not be disseminated in any publication. It will always be summarized and statistically summarized. I know there's ways of saying that. Because I have a lot of people who actually say, I'm not filling this out, it's my personal stuff, so.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we have some standard language that we can place in there that references that it will be only reported in the aggregate is typically what we tell folks, and no individual will be named or individual responses referenced.
Thank you.
And this is Michelle Esposito again for the record. Going back to Christina's point, I'm looking at, I looked at our webpage because I'm the director of the Office of Equal Employment and Title IX at UNLV. And I also looked at UNR's webpage for their Title IX office. And both of us use similar language. Like we say report a concern or submit a concern, and nowhere on our websites do we say submit a confidential report. So I think it would be less confusing to remove the word confidential. That was confusing the way I said it. I think we should remove confidential on that first page or second page, wherever it is that it's noted. where it talks about reporting a concern to the Title IX office, just to report a concern. And I think it should be at that.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, just to clarify, we will be removing the confidential language for Title IX for all NSHE institutions or just UNLV?
I would recommend all institutions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And this is Christina Hall for the record. And then I would recommend to add confidential to anywhere where it says the counseling center or the confidential campus-based advocacy center. So for UNLV, that would be care center. And for UNR, I believe it's UNR Cares or
Dr.
Nevada
Mariano,
Cares.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, we will make that change.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. Any other feedback from task force members for Dr. Mariano? Anything line item specific or additional general feedback or improvements?
Luisa Bautista for the record. I know last meeting we also talked about adding a Spanish language option. My only concern is that a large portion of Nevada State University is Spanish speakers, and having it accessible to them would be very beneficial and useful.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, we can translate the survey in Spanish, though I would prefer if someone else could also just review that to make sure it is consistent.
Thank you.
This is Christina Hall for the record. Our office has a bilingual case management coordinator in Spanish who is a victim advocate, so knows the jargon for this stuff, so I could volunteer that person.
Dr. Mariano, for the record, thank you for that. And I want to be clear too, when we send it to them, that it should be simply looking for language consistency between the English and the Spanish version, so we don't get in a place where additional recommendations are made that may not have been brought before the task force. That might seem obvious, but I just wanted to state that would be helpful for just translation purposes.
Definitely, thank you.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. Thank you, Ms. Hall, for possibly making available the expertise of one of your colleagues. With the background in language acquisition, translation is a science. It's a linguistic science. In addition to having someone who generously could offer their time for to ensure that the content is rendering exactly, kind of as we intended it. Maybe I'll confer with the NSHE office about the possibility of a professional translator as well, just for accuracy and consistency. I think a couple of set of eyes might be beneficial.
And Christina Hall for the record, I think that's a good idea. I can recommend our bilingual case management coordinator to review and just read through to make sure it looks good, but not necessarily to translate it, just to be clear.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that back into conversation, Ms. Bautista. And once again, any final points of conversation, feedback for Dr. Mariano?
Dr. Mariano, for the record, would it be okay if I summarize the changes that I've noted here? So change 1, we will check our screen out questions to ensure that once you get to that demographic block, you can go back should you want to return to a previous screener question. With regard to the confidential and non-confidential resources, we will remove Title IX as a confidential resource and ensure that all counseling centers and confidential advocacy support centers are listed as confidential, including embedding them with a link at the footer of the page. We will revise the typo on the "my partner stomped out of the room." We will add language to the beginning of the survey that it will, responses will be provided in the aggregate and not disseminated on an individual basis. And then we will collectively explore the best way to do a Spanish language translation.
Thank you. Thank you for the summary. Okay. All right, with that, this sounds like it brings us to the conclusion of agenda item 4. I just wanted to again thank you, Dr. Mariano. Thank you to your colleagues as well. I appreciate your attention to detail and professionalism in working with us on this important survey. Also, a note of gratitude to task force members. There are some folks who have been with us from the very beginning. We began the first iteration of this survey in 2022 and 2023. At the time, there were a handful of states doing this. There are still only a handful of states doing this. And when doing research on best practices, Nevada rises to the top. And so the work that we're doing here is a kind of forerunner for what's happening nationally. And some of it is appropriately kind of fine-tuning language, reviewing for consistency, accuracy, finding small typos. And there's if we back out, there's a larger picture here of the important legislation, and embedded in that legislation is the work of the survey. And so just a note of gratitude for those who've been with us for the long haul and those who are newer members who are bringing important perspectives. It's important work for the well-being of our students, and I look forward to administering the survey and seeing the results and making appropriate recommendations if and when needed based on those results. So thank you all for getting this work to this point. And this is a possible action item. So with that, this is for, we could recommend the survey to the Board of Regents. That would mean that we're recommending body. So do we want to recommend to the Board of Regents to consider this survey for adoption at the system level? So is there a motion to approve recommending the survey to the Board of Regents?
Tabor Griswold, for the record, prior to submitting a motion for approval, do we need to see the finalized edits?
I think we can.
Ryan Herrick, for the record. No, the motion could be to approve recommendation with the edits as discussed today. If you'd like to see another version, that could certainly be circulated after the meeting once the edits were made.
Renee Davis for the record. So we are on a timeline, which is why we published the timeline for the last several meetings. If we don't approve today, then we won't have time to get on the board's agenda for June, which is necessary in order to administer in fall. So it would be my recommendation to take action today if the task force is comfortable with that.
Elizabeth Gunn, for the record, thank you for that. So amending the recommendation, so do we recommend approving the survey, incorporating the edits discussed today and summarized by Dr. Mariano, and recommend that newer version to the regents? I was looking back through this process from 2023. We did this exact same thing. We had a couple of meetings where we went through the survey, and the final meeting, we recommended the survey with edits that were made at that final meeting.
Tabor Griswold, for the record, then I recommend the motion for approval of this with the proposed edits as we had previously done before. Thank you.
Aaron Jock, for the record, I second.
Thank you both. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Excellent. Thank you all again for your work. This positions us well for a presentation to the board. Thank you, Dr. Mariano. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, continuing discussion from the February 5th, 2026 task force meeting. I'll lead you all in a discussion of the updated institutional services matrix, including how the task force may use this information to guide future recommendations to the Board of Regents. And so recapturing our work to date on this agenda item, we actually began this in 2022. So we've been working on this for some time. You all may recall, for those who were here and those who were here at later subsequent meetings, the institutions presented to the Board of Regents, to this task force a couple of times on services available across institutions. From there, we took information from those presentations and created we had discussion about how to move forward with that information. And then we created a service matrix, which we reviewed at our last meeting. You all made some nice recommendations, actually the last couple of meetings, some great recommendations. This is a more robust institutional services matrix now. It captures various levels of services provided. There's an overview across institutions. There's some institutional level information included in different categories. And so we can look at the matrix and then from there discuss how to move this important work forward. Kind of the current state of the matrix. Visualizing our gaps, if any, recommendations that we may have, and or a couple of other ways to approach this work is thinking about sets of common definition. We have some of that in policy and legislation, so we want to stick to that. Also looking for coordination, more coordination if appropriate across institutions, or consultation and memoranda of understanding with external organizations. And so those are some of the things that can help inform our thinking today. So let's take a look at the matrix.
Renee Davis for the record. I just wanted to mention that over the month and a half since the last meeting, we did hear back from the majority of campuses, and Dr. Gunn incorporated the updates from those campuses. The one that I know that is missing, but we do have a few updates for UNR to make, so I don't know if it's helpful if I just mention those on the record.
Sure, thank you.
I do have the updates from UNR, and then of course, members from UNR, if these don't sound right, let me know, but these did come from Ziva Edmondson, from the Office of Civil Rights at UNR. There was a suggestion in Section 1, core power-based violence services across the institutions. There was a suggestion, although it says you may want to add the VOCA Center, Counseling Center, and Police Department to the list there. Under the safety planning section. And then also a suggestion under community referrals that perhaps we'd want to add student services. So maybe those two might be for discussion with this group. And then the more substantive change was that Nevada Cares no longer has a confidential advocacy program, but they do provide prevention education. Advocacy at UNR is provided by UNR PD. And that was in Section 2 under the UNR row. And then there's that same correction under E, Residence Hall, Residence Life Initiative about Nevada Cares. So those are the edits that UNR submitted. We just didn't have them in time for the agenda deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Davis. So with that in mind, let's look through the matrix, just an overview, and then section by section. As we move through those sections, we'll discuss the UNR input. Okay, by way of a brief overview, the matrix looks at core services across institutions. There's Title IX, reporting mechanisms, supportive measures, safety and planning, crisis response, law enforcement coordination, prevention education, this is student-focused, employee training, and community referrals. And so at the top of the matrix, you can see some background information there. Item number 1 is the core power-based violence services across institutions. This was a great recommendation from the task force as well to kind of have a high-level summary of what's offered across these primary categories. And so give you a moment to look at that. And one key question, this came from UNLV. If under the number 1, the core power-based violence services, under safety planning, under typical responsible offices, UNLV recommended removing Title IX. I welcome those with expertise and context. I welcome your input on that.
So this is Michelle Sposito for the record. The Title IX office does not do safety planning, but we would refer to the care center to address that.
Okay, thank you for that point of clarification. Any other feedback on part 1?
I'm wondering how the group feels about the UNR suggestion of adding counseling center and police departments to safety planning.
This is Christina Hall for the record. I think it depends maybe on the institution and the training for each of those areas at that institution. I know, for example, pretty much all licensed therapists or counselors are trained in safety planning around suicidal ideation, but maybe not necessarily around power-based violence in particular. So if we're like thinking about power-based violence in particular, it may depend on the training of the particular counseling center, maybe, which I don't know the answer to for all institutions. And potentially also UPD. I know that at UNLV, UPD will often refer folks over to the care center to do additional safety planning after they respond to an incident or take a report. So those are just some thoughts.
Ricky Salazar for the record. I know for UNR, our university police department has a victim advocate, and they would certainly play a part in safety planning specifically for our institution with our students.
Yeah, Tabor Griswold for the record is part of the Committee on the Status of Women. We've been having a discussion about this change concerning Nevada Cares. And this, we'll have an additional discussion. It was a disappointment that this happened.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. So the suggestion is we remove Title IX, it's not appropriate under safety planning, but add University Police
Case for the record, I guess that would be depending on each institution. Of course, I'm speaking on behalf of like our school, and we are confident in that the police department alike, officers, the victimatic advocate within that space are all well equipped to help students become safe anxiety related techniques, tactics.
This is Erin Frock from TMCC, and we share police services with UNR. So the police services at UNR provide the same service to the TMCC campus with the same resource officers. So that would be the same for our institution as well.
All right, thank you all. So Elizabeth Gunn for the record. So in the safety row, in the last column, we're removing Title IX and adding UPD. Any other comments, or we'll move on to section 2? Okay. Actually, my apology. There's one more comment here from UNR under section 1, community referrals. In the last column, typical responsible offices. I have a note, and the Vice Chancellor references as well, UNR recommended adding student services. This is under community referrals and responsible area. So we've got campus advocacy centers, Title IX, counseling service, university support, care teams. Is student services appropriate there? Is that too broad, or is that I guess from a student's perspective, would I know what that, kind of, would that be specific enough to guide me to a resource?
Erin Frock from TMCC. I know at my institution specifically, anyone in student services who would need to make a community referral would send them to the counseling center. Okay. Seeing the counseling center under the umbrella of student services as the lead on those type of referrals. Okay. So that it wouldn't necessarily make sense for our institution.
So Elizabeth Gunn, so we already have the more specific office under student services there. Is that consistent for the others here today?
Christina Hall for the record. We have, I'm not sure what student services is referring to. We have a student affairs, and then underneath it are all those specific offices. So we're trying to be more specific, maybe leaving it as is, but if there is a particular office that other institutions have that are not represented, that sounds fine to me to add that. I just don't think all institutions have something called student services, but that's okay.
Right. I'm wondering, Elizabeth Gunn, I'm wondering if that's, as someone mentioned, student affairs. This is also just the umbrella portion of this matrix that sort of capturing these major categories. So all the institutions have counseling services or a referral process for counseling services. So I think that might already capture what is intended. Okay.
Isabel Hatch for the record. When we, at UNR, when we say student services, that can also encompass the Disability Resource Center or other student services. So I think that would be kind of confusing. Mm-hmm. So I think focusing on the counseling services is more effective.
Thank you, Ms. Hatch. Okay, looks like there's general agreement around the what language under community referrals reading as is, not adding student services. So we'll move on to section 2, which is institutional offices and services that vary across our institutions. And so the subset of that first category is resource centers and advocacy. There were some great line item edits between meetings, and so looking to ensure that this is as accurate as possible per your your knowledge today.
Ricky Salazar for the record. Based on the new information that we heard today about Nevada Cares not offering confidential advocacy, that probably should be taken off under service model for UNR.
Elizabeth Gunn, thank you, Mr. Salazar. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, that'll be removed in the next iteration of this, these materials. Okay. There's no feedback on Part A, 2A. We'll move down to Part 2B, which is counseling mental health services. Again, there was great line item feedback from the institutions here. If there's any additional conversation today, let us know.
Ricky Salazar for the record. I'm looking under the UNR. I guess question would be how specific do we want to be? Because I do know that UNR has a couple of counseling service type resources on campus. Obviously, the big one is University Counseling Services. But I've also referred students to UNR Psychological Services, and the other one is the UNR Downing Clinic. Not sure. I haven't seen their spaces in quite some time, so I'm not sure if that's relevant or not to include that here.
Elizabeth Gunn, for the record, could you repeat the second item that you mentioned, the second service available at UNR?
Yes, it's called the, I'm saying that correctly, give me once. It's called the UNR Downing Clinic. Yes, DOWNING Clinic.
Okay. So Elizabeth Gunn, thank you for that. I'm looking at the website. The Downing Clinic is it's a training center for graduate counseling, the College of Education and Human Development, and it does offer clinical services, individual, couples, and family counseling, group therapy, play therapy, consultation, referral. And then that lists fees, $10 for students within the NSHE system. I'll make a note. I'll note that that's something to possibly add.
This is Christina Hall for the record. For this section, I'm just curious, are we trying to capture counseling services that are provided like by the university and funded by the university or others? Because the reason I ask this Ricky's comment made me think that there are other counseling centers on UNLV's campus, but they're not necessarily, they're like provided as part of like the training for counselors. So we have like the practice and the Center for Individual, Couples, and Family Therapy, but it's not like institutionally, this is our counseling center. It is a training program for counselors who are going through their programs. But we do send people there. It's not part of their mental health fees, so they do have to pay, versus CAPS at our university is part of their mental health fees, and they do not have to pay to access those services. So I guess the question is, are we just listing the services that are part of the students' tuition and fees, or are we also including those other kind of tangential services that might be on campuses?
Well, Elizabeth Gunn, I imagine it's UNLV and UNR with the graduate programs that would have the additional services. That's why I noted there's a fee for the Downing Center. Do folks on the task force have opinions on whether or not to include the names of these additional resources here and notate, and we could note there's a fee, or is that too granular for what we're trying to accomplish here at the system level?
Christina Hall, for the record, I would recommend leaving them off, just because we're kind of looking at this as what is the institution, providing to students, right? And so including those is good for advocates to know, so we can send people to them as another option, but may not capture like what the institution is providing to students as part of their fees and their services, if that makes sense.
Tabor Griswold, for the record, this is an interesting discussion, and I think perhaps a footnote would be advised that there are additional services available for a fee.
Any other comments about this item?
This is Erin from TMCC. This is kind of a tough one because I think it is obviously things like the Downing Clinic are a community resource, but like to me they're kind of a similar community resource as other community counseling services in the area versus like institutional campus places where I think students utilize. It just seems like we're opening ourselves up to all sorts of like, well, but you could also go here and you could go here and I don't know. So it just I tend to agree with Christina that maybe it would be more appropriate to just use the ones that are specific to student fees or where that fall under the student services umbrella rather than practicum sites, especially because those practicum sites have really high turnover of therapists because of the grad student nature, and so it's not like a continuum of care.
Okay, Elizabeth Gunn, for the record, it sounds like the appropriate professionals at campuses know that these services are available and can make referrals as appropriate. For the kind of entry-level perspective, we would defer to the institutions and the professionals at those institutions to make these referrals. We don't necessarily need to capture that here. What we want to capture here are services already covered by student fees for no additional cost. Okay. Great discussion. All right, moving on to, we're in part 2, item C, which is the Title IX Civil Rights Offices. Any additional feedback there? It's pretty clear. So what about item D, Key Institutional Service Models? This is getting at, this kind of alludes to the dot matrix below as well, but we'll stay here for now. Whether it's a comprehensive hybrid referral model. That the language seems to capture what we've already covered in just another way. So moving on to E, which is the Residence Hall, Residence Life Initiatives. In this portion, we, as noted before, we've got the note from UNR that Nevada Cares no longer has a confidential advocacy program, but they do provide prevention, education. Advocacy is provided, now it's provided by the UPD. So we'll make that adjustment with the next iteration of this document. Any other feedback or comments about Residence Hall, Residence Life? Okay. All right, we'll move on to F, which is services by institutional website. And again, go ahead.
Luisa Bautista for the record. I would suggest adding a direct link to student wellness services, as I'm looking at our website and the community resources is under the umbrella of student wellness services, which includes counseling services, community resources, and all of those resources are open to our students without an additional fee. So adding that in there would add more resources in that aspect.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. I was trying to capture some notes. Would you mind repeating?
Of course.
Please, thank you.
Luisa Bautista for the record. I wanted to suggest adding a direct link to the Student Wellness Services website, as that is an umbrella for counseling services and community services.
Is this from Nevada State?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other feedback for the websites?
Ricky Salazar again for the record. Same as we've discussed before on the UNR Nevada Cares. You just got to take out the confidentiality advocacy piece.
Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you all. That brings us to the appendix, which is this visual. Just basically, it's a dot matrix showing the levels of the modalities, levels of service. The legend is comprehensive, moderate, limited, or referral partnership. This alludes to the previous section that is showing the kinds of the modalities for services and the structure for services. When asked for feedback from the institutions, there were adjustments here. So the student affairs officers, Title IX offices have provided some good input, and we made those adjustments. Okay, so from here, we have made huge progress to get to this point with inventory and analysis of our services across institutions. There's a couple of avenues we could pursue from here. One would be to discuss the standardization of core services. We've got that in the first part. We can take another look at that in the first part. The appropriate flexibility based on campus context, which we have codified here as well. We could also we could look to discuss, I suppose, first, where the matrix is, where the identified services are appropriate, where we might make recommendations, or where we might identify areas for partnership across institutions or with external agencies. That's in the legislation. That's part of our scope of work for the task force. Another level, there's several levels of analysis we could do. Another is there was previous interest in some data and accountable and outcomes. I don't think we're quite to where we want to be to there. Maybe another meeting or two, we can maybe work toward that. But I'll pause there and ask if you all have any initial thoughts on the couple of those options about where to take this matrix next.
Renee Davis for the record. One question I have for the task force is, would it make sense to put all or some of this on an NSHE webpage? We do have several student services related pages and elements within the academic and student affairs section of the website. With what I would envision would be maybe with links as appropriate, but I don't know if all of the sections make sense. So I just put that out there as a possibility should the task force desire.
Christina Hall for the record, I don't think that there's any harm in putting resources in multiple places, as long as there's bandwidth for at the NSHE level to add resources to a page. I don't think there's any harm in that.
Elizabeth Gunn for the record. Thank you for offering that, and I agree. It provides a nice overview of what's available and student-facing as needed. If we do that, we'll probably need to build into this agenda and maybe other agendas just a recurring agenda item to look at the materials to ensure that they're always up to date, to ensure we're pointing students to the most accurate information.
Renee Davis for the record. And yes, thank you for making that suggestion. I think that's really important because that is always the downfall of adding a web page, is not keeping everything up to date. So, but I think this task force is a great resource to make sure that continues to happen.
Well, the pending question as well was kind of where to take this matrix from here. If there's no discussion on that question, I'll put forward a few questions for the task force at the next agenda to help frame that conversation and move this forward. I think what we've got here is excellent. What the institutions are doing is excellent. There's ways to frame this aligned with our call to action legislation to keep the conversation moving in a productive way. So thank you all for your work offline, those who were tasked through the Vice Chancellor's email to work on this between meetings. And thank you all to everyone here today for contributing to making this a stronger resource. All right, with that, it brings us to agenda item 6, which is new business. Items for consideration at future meetings may be suggested. Any discussion under this item is limited to description and clarification of the subject matter, which may include the reason for the request, and no substantive discussion may occur. Would anyone like to put forward any ideas for for consideration for new business?
Christina Hall for the record, I recommend putting for new business a continued conversation about what to use this matrix to inform maybe future recommendations or suggestions from the task force, including bolstering efforts to prevent and respond to power-based violence on all campuses NSHE-wide.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. All right. At our next meeting, we'll also hopefully have an update about the board's decision as well. So I look forward to that. With that, I'll turn to, if there are no further items, I'll turn to agenda item 7, which is public comment. I don't see comment here in Las Vegas. Is there a comment in Reno?
There is no public comment in Reno.
Thank you. Are there any callers?
Not at this time.
With that, again, extension of huge gratitude to task force members. Thank you for your consistent participation in this important work and moving the work of the task force forward, and your time today. I know it takes away from your primary jobs, and thank you for your intellect, effort, input, and collaboration. I wish you all a good rest of the day. Thank you. And it's 10:37. The meeting's adjourned.